What is up, guys? It's the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and today I'm back to talk about Warhammer 40K. In this one, we will be going over the commander decks that cross over 40K and Magic the Gathering. So I've been anticipating this for months, and finally it's here. All the cards have been revealed. Now we just gotta wait till October 7th to be able to play with these awesome 40K decks. We've got Necrons, Tyranids, the Imperium, and Chaos, and I think that's a good representation of what 40K is. But of course, there are Orcs, the Eldari, the Tau, the Leagues of Voltan that just recently came out, and there's just a lot of factions that aren't covered in these commander decks. So that leads me to believe that if they do well in terms of sales, maybe we'll get a part 2 to more commander decks, or maybe we'll get a whole set in general. But that's just speculation, that's just theory. We'll see what happens in the future, but for now, I just want to kind of go over what these decks entail, some of the cards in there, and my overall thoughts. I've already done this for the Forces of the Imperium deck, as well as the Ruinous Powers deck. So today, I will be focusing on a surprise favorite, and that is the Necrons. So the Necron deck is the only deck that is monocolored. It is all just black. However, there is a sub-theme to it, and that's artifacts, which are colorless. It doesn't really matter, since you could pay any type of mana for colorless spells, but it's a very cool mix of synergy and awesome named characters that can be found in this deck. It is just a really great deck. I'm gonna for sure purchase the Ruinous Powers deck, but if I can find it, I'll probably try and cop the Necron one as well, because again, you've got a bunch of named characters and Catan and whatnot that just look really cool. That is one of the things that I do love about these decks, and that is just the artwork. Amazing. So with that being said, let's go ahead and dive into this video. So first and foremost, let's go ahead and start with probably one of my favorite characters in the lore and in this commander set, and that is Imotekh the Stormlord. He is 2 black for a 3/3 legendary artifact creature Necron. This guy can be used as your commander, and he's pretty good. Let's take a look at his Pharaon ability. Whenever 1 or more artifact cards leave your graveyard, you create 2 2/2 black Necron warrior artifact creature tokens. This deck has a lot to do with recursion and graveyard. So being able to take cards from your graveyard, put them back to your hand, put them back to the field, is going to net you a lot of pluses if this guy is out on the field. So say you have ways to dump cards into the graveyard, you're also going to have ways to reanimate, and that is where the Pharaon ability takes place and also creates these more Necrons on the battlefield. But it doesn't end there. The Grand Strategist ability is at the beginning of combat on your turn, another target artifact creature you control gets +2/+2 and gains menace. So this kind of fits with the whole lore of Imotekh. He is a pretty powerful Necron lord, and with these abilities you get to show that power off in the form of Magic the Gathering. So let's say this named character isn't to your liking, there are a lot more to choose from, such as Anrakyr the Traveler. This is also a legendary artifact Necron creature for 4 and a black, and he's a 4/4. He only has 1 ability, but it's a pretty good ability. The Lord of the Fythian Legions. I believe that's how you pronounce it. Whenever Anrakyr the Traveler attacks, you may cast an artifact spell from your hand or graveyard by paying life equal to its mana, rather than paying its mana cost. So this is really good considering you start with 40 life in Commander. Losing a few, pings of life here and there doesn't really do too much detriment to you. But yeah, depending on what artifact cards are in your hand or in your graveyard, you can do some pretty crazy things, especially since this is a attack trigger. So if you have an equipment, maybe you're able to equip it on him too. I'm not sure, maybe you're just able to cast it. But if you have any other type of effects that really change the way attacks go, or maybe protection or something like that, Anrakyr the Traveler can be a pretty powerful commander. Or maybe you want to use the face card as your commander, and that is Szarekh the Silent King. This is pretty crazy because for the longest time the Silent King was just a character in the background. We knew that he was essentially the emperor, but in Necron form for the Necrons. He left the galaxy, and now he's back, and we get a freaking Magic the Gathering card for him, which is amazing. He is 1 and 3 black for a 3/4 legendary artifact creature Necron. On top of this guy has flying, so that's really good, being able to go over defenders. But I think his ability, My Will Be Done, is pretty good. Whenever he attacks, you get to mill 3 cards. You can then put an artifact creature card or a vehicle card among the cards milled this way to your hand. So this synergizes with what the deck wants to do, and that is basically put cards into the graveyard so you could use them and get them back in multiple ways. Now, alone, he doesn't really seem like he does much. That's because it's true. He doesn't do much alone, but he does get you card advantage with draw. He does fill your graveyard, but in terms of power, unfortunately, he's not the best, which is interesting because, I mean, he should be. He's a freaking Silent King. But anyway, when you're looking for power, you may want to turn to the Catan. Here we have the Shard of the Nightbringer. 5 generic and 3 black give you an 8/8 Catan creature with flying. So huge body, huge defense, he's a flyer, and his life drain ability is Chef's Kiss. When the Shard of the Nightbringer enters the battlefield, if you cast it, you target an opponent, they lose half their life, and guess what? You gain that half to your life. So say for some reason you have an opponent that is still at 40 life. When you cast this bad boy, they go down to 20, and then you gain that 20 life. So that can be a pretty big impact on the game, especially considering if you give him haste, then he's able to go ahead and deal 8 damage outright as long as he connects. So a pretty powerful card. I was thinking of ways of how you can abuse this like life drain ability. Unfortunately, you have to cast him, which sucks because you can't just blink him and have him, leave the field, come back, drain somebody. You have to pay the mana for it. So that kind of does suck, but I'm pretty sure there'll be ways to kind of make this become pretty strong. Maybe this Catan doesn't do it for you entirely. Well, guess what? We have none other than the Shard of the Void Dragon. This is another huge reveal in the Warhammer community that happened pretty recent. Again, we've heard stories about the Void Dragon, rumors about the Void Dragon. Is he under the Martian sands? What exactly can he do? Is it the Omnissiah? And then we got lore for him finally in the newest codex for the Necrons. And now we have an amazing piece of art for the Shard of the Void Dragon, and a pretty powerful card as well in this crossover. 4 generic and 3 black give you a 7/7 creature Catan with flying as well. This time he has 2 abilities. The Spear of the Void Dragon. Whenever Shard of the Void Dragon attacks, each opponent sacrifices a non-land permanent. That's basically the Annihilator ability, but for every opponent. So as long as you're able to turn him sideways, he's going to be making your opponent sacrifice things, and that's going to be really good. On top of that, he has the Matter Absorption ability. Whenever an artifact is put into a graveyard from the battlefield or put into exile from the battlefield, he gets 2 +1/+1 counters. So again, your theme of your deck is to put cards into the graveyard, and sometimes in order to cast cards from the graveyard, you exile them. So that will be making your Void Dragon stronger and stronger and stronger. And again, since he's a flyer, he's going to be going in and attacking and dealing a ton of damage. This is a really powerful card. In my opinion, it's a little bit stronger than the Nightbringer. Don't get me wrong, the Nightbringer is still pretty powerful with that ability to drain people and gain life. But at the end of the day, I think the Void Dragon is just a little bit better. Unfortunately, we don't have the other named Catan, the Deceiver, on here. Because I think, like I was saying earlier, there's got to be more to it. There's got to be a part 2 to this Warhammer MTG crossover. So they got to keep certain named characters, in reserves for that time. So we'll probably see the Deceiver at a later date. But yeah, this is a pretty powerful deck. There are powerful reprints in here, such as Cage Sun, Darkness. Yeah, so there is a ton to look forward to in this deck, and the cool thing about this being a monocolored deck is you don't have to worry about mana fixing. You're just going to be playing a bunch of swamps, a bunch of utility lands, and everything will be, you know, useful. Like, you won't be mana screwed, you won't be missing a color here and there, so it's a lot easier to play this deck and not have to worry about that aspect of it. Overall, like I said, this is probably my favorite deck. A surprise. I thought I was going to like the Chaos one a little bit better, but yeah, this one seems pretty good, pretty powerful. In the next few days, weeks, there should be other YouTubers playing with these pre-constructed decks. I'll be sure to give you links, give you information when that happens, so you can see how these decks play against one another. Now, I'm pretty sure there's going to be a ton of Necron cards making their way into other decks because they are pretty powerful, and depending on the synergies and the playstyle of certain commanders, you can do a lot with these cards. So let me know your thoughts down below, guys. If you want more information on this, links will be down in the description. I've also covered the Imperium deck and the Chaos deck, so you guys can check that out. And finally, in the next coming days, I will be doing my final review into the Tyranid deck. That is another fun deck that, as soon as I saw it, I was like, I already have a deck that does exactly what this does. So I really enjoyed it. But for now, that's all I got. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. And as always, you can support us via Patreon, via the Super Thanks button, and just by liking, commenting, and sharing. Thanks again, guys. As always, it's the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.